The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for participating in today's OA Alliance webinar, which is focused on keeping up momentum for ocean and climate action in 2020. My name is Jessie Turner, and I'm the project manager for the OA Alliance and will be facilitating today's webinar. I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge this time of deep uncertainty and transition, and really note that we here at the Alliance hope that you, your loved ones, and your communities are doing well, and that we're so grateful for your continued engagement and your work with us. And additionally, we are incredibly lucky to be hearing from such a set of distinguished speakers today across core ocean and climate platforms. It's a real gift to have their time, especially knowing that they too are juggling all sorts of new responsibilities and schedules at home. So presenters, we really thank you for your time today. All right, so for those of you that are new to the Alliance as members or partners, I want to begin with a brief overview of our work before introducing today's agenda. And I should also note that we are recording today's webinar for those friends and partners that aren't able to join in real time. Great. So the OA Alliance brings together governments and organizations from across the globe dedicated to taking urgent action to protect coastal communities and livelihoods from the threat of ocean acidification and other climate ocean impacts. Together, OA Alliance members are elevating urgency and ambition for climate action, integrating ocean into climate commitments, and translating knowledge into policy actions. Since our launch, the OA Alliance has grown to over 100 members, and we are still growing. Very happy to say our membership includes a strong mix of national, state, municipal, and sovereign tribal, indigenous, and First Nation governments, along with many dedicated affiliate partners like NGOs, industry leaders, seafood growers, and local academia. The Alliance calls for the creation of OA action plans, which describe the actions members will take or are taking to better understand and respond to the threat of OA and other ocean climate impacts within their region. So with the rapid spread of COVID-19, the UN Ocean Conference, COP26, and other large meetings have been appropriately postponed this year, which was meant to be a banner year for climate and ocean momentum. However, even as we face these enormous challenges, governments, organizations, business, and civil society leaders are standing ready to continue progress, share success stories, and compelling case studies for implementing ocean solutions in 2020 and beyond. Increasingly, international and multi-government commitments to addressing climate change and sustainable development will play an important role in stimulating the collective action that is needed. And therefore, it is my great honor to introduce our agenda and speakers, including United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy for the Ocean, Ambassador Peter Thomson, who will be speaking to us today about keeping up momentum in this new landscape, particularly focused on UN SDG 14. We'll have Elena Perez from World Economic Forum sharing more about the virtual ocean dialogues that the forum will be hosting this first week in June in partnership with Friends of Ocean Action. Emily McGlone with with Peace Boat will be speaking to us about UN World Ocean Day, which is occurring on June 8th, and the week-long programming that is being put forward that you all can stay engaged with. Dr. Joanna Post with the UNFCCC Secretariat will share status and proposals for the Ocean and Climate Change Dialogue, which was proposed and created at COP25. And finally, Secretary of IOC UNESCO will be speaking with us about the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development and how we can stay further engaged and what this new landscape will look like for the UN Decade. So with that, and without further ado, it's my personal privilege to introduce Ambassador Peter Thomson, a great friend here to the Alliance. And Ambassador Thomson will be counting on you to give us your thoughts and reactions to this new landscape, inspire us to keep going, and help understand what benchmarks and targets we should be collectively aiming for. So Ambassador Thomson, let's see if I can do this appropriately and bring you up live here. Sharing. Okay. I'll pause showing my screen. Let's see, Ambassador Thomson, do we see Ambassador Thomson?
Can you hear me there, Jesse?
We can.
You can hear me, and can you see me?
Let's see here. I can see you. Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. Well, here goes. Look, everybody, so nice to be sharing this moment with you all, and thanks, Jesse, for that kind introduction. I want to preface my remarks tonight by thanking the organizers, the Ocean Acidification Alliance and ICRI, for the great work that you're doing in maintaining the momentum on SDG 14 implementation, especially on SDG 14.3, the target to minimize and address the impacts of ocean acidification. So important what you're doing. I'd also like to take this opportunity to add to the words which you just gave there, Jesse, about this pandemic. It's a time to be in solidarity with those who are suffering the effects of the pandemic. And I urge everyone to remember that it's in times like these that we've got to exercise the very best of humanity's powers of empathy. So on that somber note, it's also a time for us to share our ideas and our resources better. And it's a time when we have to bring out our most innovative and entrepreneurial talents while keeping our feet firmly rooted in science. It's true what you said, that the super year has been disrupted and that most of our key conferences have been postponed. But it's no more than that. The conferences are going to be held as soon as conditions allow, and we will gather there at them in real and virtual format to deliberate. For we remain resolutely committed to the multilateral process aimed at securing a sustainable way of life on this planet. So in the meantime, we've got a responsibility through meetings such as this to maintain the momentum and, where required, to meet the targets set by international agreement. And I'll say a little bit more about that. But first of all, the UN conference will be held in Lisbon as mandated, with co-presidents Portugal and Kenya dedicated to hosting a vibrant conference that delivers on that theme of supporting SDG 14's implementation through science and innovation. So step-by-step preparations for the conference are continuing, and I'm aware of that because I'm part of them. And they're continuing within the UN Secretariat, the UN system, but also with the co-hosts Kenya and Portugal. And as I said, dates are going to be announced as soon as conditions allow. But in the meantime, I urge you all just to stay in touch with the process through the Communities of Ocean Action, which I know many of you are members of, through that website managed by UNDESA. And I encourage your organizations, your communities, your governments to make fresh commitments, voluntary commitments in support of SDG 14, which you can do on that website. Most of us are still confined within the tunnel of the COVID-19 pandemic, but we're looking now at the light ahead and the road that'll lead us to economic recovery. So I put it to you this evening, or today as it is for you guys, I'm in London. I put it to you that in this time when when our voices have got to be heard in favor of the high road that lies ahead, the road that takes us to a clean, green transition, a road I like to call the blue-green recovery road. At this time, decisions on massive financial commitments are in train. And before the seal is set upon them, we have to ensure the consequences of taking the low road back to the polluting, fossil fuel dependent world that we knew are understood and avoided. Governments, development banks, agencies, corporations, none should be allowed to wash their hands of long-term responsibility in the name of short-term expedience. So I urge you to think about the 6 principles that UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres laid down in his Earth Day address last month. Principles that included ending fossil fuel subsidies, polluters being made to pay for their pollution, and investing public funds into a future of sustainable projects that help the environment and climate. In the end, the ocean's well-being depends on the drastic lowering of our greenhouse gas emissions. If you care about the ocean's health, care about those emissions, for from them we witness ocean acidification, deoxygenation, and ocean warming. And when you think ocean warming, amongst other detrimental effects, of course, think marine species leaving their traditional habitats, and think rising sea levels devastating coastal communities. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were on course for global warming of over 3.5 degrees centigrade by the end of this century. Once crossed the dreaded line of 2 degrees warming, we would witness the ocean's loss of coral reefs, home to 30% of its biodiversity. What would that mean for the health of the ocean? In the presence of Vladimir Ryabinin and the IOC, I would say at this stage, the truth is we don't know, which is why we need the UN Decade of Ocean Science. But I think we can at least agree at this stage that losing the coral reefs of this world would not be good for the ocean or for us. And that's an existential reality for all of us. For without a healthy ocean, how can we have a healthy planet? Thus, whether you're coming from an ocean or a biodiversity perspective, I would say to you that all roads lead to Glasgow next year and the achievement of solid results from COP26. The self-interest of our species demands that unprecedented reductions in anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions around the world must be central to our building back better. Only then will we reverse the decline of the ocean's health and best secure our own. We have work to do in securing more and better protected areas of the ocean. And the 30 by 30 movement is snowballing in a positive way. And I expect to see it incorporated into the post-2020 CBD framework. In the meantime, we have to make sure SDG 14.5's 10 by 20 target is achieved. Great efforts are being made to get there. Small places like the country of Niue in the Pacific and Tristan da Cunha in the Southern Atlantic are declaring massive marine protected areas. But the one I want to emphasize tonight is CCAMLR, which administers the Antarctica and the Southern Ocean. Now, CCAMLR has 3 giant marine protected areas under consideration, have been for some time in the Southern Ocean. So the necessary science on this has been completed. Thus, we call for CCAMLR to declare them when they meet in their annual meeting in October this year. This will be our best opportunity to meet that universally agreed target of SDG 14.5 of 10% of the ocean being in conservation. Another target that can be met in 2020 is SDG 14.6, the removal of harmful fishery subsidies. You know, the WTO General Council meets in December this year, and it has the power to agree on measures to achieve SDG 14.6. So let's give every encouragement we can to the ambassadors in Geneva who are now working hard on negotiating this agreement and have faith in their abilities to get there. I'd also like to mention that the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Conference, so-called BBNJ, is work at hand this year. The 4th conference has been postponed, as you know, and we have to maintain the excellent momentum that we witnessed in the first 3 conferences under the chairmanship of Ambassador Rena Lee of Singapore. It's very important that parties continue to move forward with their discussions during this intercessional period in an open and inclusive manner. We hope for a 4th conference that will result eventually in an effective and universal treaty for better high seas government, one that will stand the test of time, just as UNCLOS itself has done. Finally, the role of innovation in securing these reductions is inescapable. And we're already seeing the signs of this in everything from offshore renewable energy to the greening of shipping. Innovation will allow us to move from linear exploitation of finite planetary resources into a sustainable era of circular economies, sustainable food systems, and resilient cities. And it will show us the ways we need to safeguard the biodiversity of nature upon which our lives ultimately depend. In conclusion, I say again that in the end, The ocean's well-being depends on the drastic lowering of our greenhouse gas emissions. And if you care about the ocean's health, care about those emissions, for it is primarily from them that we are witness to ocean acidification. The self-interest of our species demands that unprecedented reductions in those greenhouse gas emissions are instituted, as I say, around the world. Everybody has to kick in. Only then will we reverse the decline of the ocean's health and best secure our own. Thanks so much for your attention, everybody, and I look forward to discussions coming up.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for those inspiring words to get us started and for your tireless leadership leading up to this year and continuing through this year. It means so much, and it's great to hear directly from you. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and move into our program and hear a little bit more about some of these particular platforms and opportunities that we all can engage in collectively across government and civil society to keep up the type of momentum that Ambassador Thomson is calling us to. So with that, Elena with World Economic Forum, Elena Perez, the Ocean Action Agenda Lead. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
I can. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again and get your slides up here and take it away.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Great.
Great. Well, thank you, Jesse, and to the Ocean Acidification Alliance for inviting me today. And it's such a pleasure to speak with everybody. And as you know, with the postponement of the UN Ocean Conference, I'm here to talk about the Friends of Ocean Action and the UN Special Envoy for the Ocean, Peter Thomson, thank you, with the World Economic Forum, who will be hosting these upcoming virtual ocean dialogues. So the virtual ocean dialogues, it's an effort to continue the conversation around ocean protection with the postponement of the UN Ocean Conference. And just as Peter Thomson noted, there has been concern that efforts to reboot the economy as we emerge from this will overlook and possibly even undermine the efforts that we've been taking to protect our oceans. And it's important to note that these ocean protection efforts and solutions, they don't just protect the ocean, but also the well-being of communities around the world and the health of humans around the world. And so it's really important that we are really pushing for the momentum here to keep up solutions and actions, and that is why we're drawing in the virtual ocean dialogues. In addition, the pandemic has also made evident the existing inequities, so the disproportionate burden that's placed on most vulnerable populations. So again, as Peter had mentioned, whether it's sea level rise or drought, all of these are ocean propelled impacts. So whether it's climate, so an indirect impact, or flooding, a direct impact, but these are affecting communities around the world and disproportionately as well. And so with this in mind, these virtual ocean dialogues really aim to continue the momentum for ocean protection while highlighting both opportunities for a blue recovery. So how can we jumpstart these economies while keeping in mind what needs to be done for the long term with long-term benefits and our well-being in mind, and also the need for inclusive solutions, because I'm sure, as everybody on the line is aware, the most robust and effective ocean protection solutions are inclusive. So these are high-level expert dialogues, and they're going to be including messages from heads of state, discussions among leaders from business, civil society, science, and innovators. And it's going to be a focus on potential and possibilities, offering some hope, especially during these difficult times. And so it is really exciting to see the range of voices coming together as we're organizing this, and they're all coming together to support ocean protection, which is going to provide a range of solutions, a range of ideas, a range of possibilities, really feeding into that hope and potential. And so if you go to the next slide, I just want to invite everybody, because these dialogues are open to the public, so we invite you to participate in these discussions. And you can go to our website. So if you go to weforum.org and go to our events page, you would scroll down and click on request access, and then you would fill out that form with your information. And you should register for the event within a 48-hour period or so. And you can also follow the conversations and tweet on with using the hashtag Ocean Dialogues, so that is just hope for everybody to join us in these virtual ocean dialogues, because again, it's really wonderful. We can draw people in as the first global virtual ocean conference. So thank you again, Jesse.
Wonderful. Thank you, Elena. And just one quick overview on structure. Is it right to say you would describe the dialogues as being high-level panels for about an hour, followed by various breakout sessions that we can find the programs for on this website?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jesse brings up a really fantastic point. There are going to be high-level dialogues that last between an hour and 15 minutes and an hour and a half. And then from there, you're going to break into, and these high-level dialogues are going to span the course of the week. So from June 1st through June 5th, you're going to have about 12 dialogues over the course of that time. And after each one of these high-level dialogues, it's going to break out into about 3 or 5 deep dive discussions. And so this is an opportunity for leaders and experts to really dive into discussions as to potential solutions, or what has worked, or what's in the works. And so it's really exciting, because there are some scientists that are going to be unveiling new technologies to monitor, and there are going to be others who are going to be showcasing what has worked, whether it's for financing, ocean protection, or other partnerships that might be emerging from this. And so it's really a fantastic way of having those high-level discussions and then breaking out into what is happening on the ground, or the potential to push that forward.
Great, thank you, Elena. And I'll note that there will be an ocean acidification and other climate ocean impacts dialogue, particularly on some of the monitoring, modeling, and forecasting. And that will occur under the Ocean and Science Dialogue on June 4th. And so we here at the Alliance will be sending out more information about that to you all through newsletters and other channels. So stay tuned for that, and really encourage everyone to check out the program as it continues to come together. And thank you, Elena, and all of your colleagues for working so hard to put this together.
Thank you, Jesse. It really comes down to the people who are leading these deep dive discussions and those who are participating in the panels. We are so grateful for all of your help.
Lovely. Great. And now on the theme of events, before we get into a little bit more of some of these longer term processes through the UNFCCC Secretariat and UN Decade, wanting to welcome Emily McGlone with Peace Boat, as well as her colleague Francois Ballet, although I could be saying that last name incorrectly, and I apologize, to talk a little bit more about their work putting together UN World Ocean Day, which is occurring officially on June 8th, but of course we'll have programming running the span of that week. So let's see here if I can pull up your slides, Emily, and perhaps you could further my introductions that probably weren't perfect, so I apologize.
Sure, thank you so much, and hello everyone. This is Emily McGlone. I'm working as the director of Peace Boat US, and we are an international organization traveling the world by ship, and thus the oceans are very important to us, as we are traveling to more than 100 ports of call around the world every year. And we are also a proud partner of the Friends of the United Nations World Oceans Day. And this year, as you can see here on the screen, the theme is Innovation for a Sustainable Ocean. And so we have with us today also Francois Ballet, who is from the United Nations Division of Ocean Affairs and Law of the Sea. And we would like to explain a little bit about the World Oceans Day itself on June 8th, and also the week of World Oceans Day, because we have now created a group largely thanks to Francois's excellent leadership at the United Nations to bring in civil society actors, all stakeholders, private sector, artists and creatives, and youth advocates working for the oceans. So with that, I would like to introduce Francois to give a brief introduction of the UN World Oceans Day events and their keynote speakers.
Well, thank you very much, Emily, and thank you, Jesse. I'd like to begin as Ambassador Thomson often does by saying all protocols observed. Indeed, thanks, Jesse, for this session and for an opportunity to come and speak a little bit about World Oceans Day. And Emily, for having set all of this up. You're a treasured, valued member of our community that is growing very, very rapidly. Of course, this is a challenging time, and the human toll and the human impact is number one priority for us at the United Nations, as Ambassador Thomson has outlined, and this spreads into oceans and as far reaching as our work in coastal communities and beyond. So we really want to emphasize that although we don't focus on this bigger reaction to the pandemic, it is very much front and center in our work. But also, as the ambassador has very well laid out, this is a time of challenges and opportunities, and it is a time of innovation. We have no choice. Humanity needs to come together. The multilateral processes need to continue. We need to share ideas and resources and to innovate. And so, quite coincidentally, this year's theme is Innovation for a Sustainable Ocean. And we are really proud to have a lineup that is going to bring this to the stage. To backtrack quickly, and if I could have the next slide, please. The World Oceans Day event that marks this International Day by the United Nations is organized by the Division for Ocean Affairs and Law of the Sea, which is the Secretariat of the United Nations in New York, part of the legal office. You may know us because we're also the Secretariat of the BBNJ process, which Ambassador Thomson has mentioned, and of course we have a central role in the Ocean Conference and then many other ocean things which I won't unpack here. One of the things that the General Assembly has entrusted on us is to organize every year this event as an international day. It's very public facing, and this year is no exception. Despite the challenges, we find that the community of ocean people, let's call them, from the activists to the scientists to the policymakers to you, me, and everyone around us, is really mobilizing and wanting to share, wanting to give, wanting to contribute, and wanting to show how important it is to come together. I can't emphasize how much of a groundswell we've experienced in the last 2 months. The event itself is only the UN's event marking the day. There are, as Emily mentioned, and we'll give some details, many other events on the day of. And I'm pleased to say we actually have almost 2 weeks of events now. So I think we'll have to start working, Ambassador Thomson, with the GA to designate World Oceans Week or maybe month soon. Without wanting to dive too deeply into the actual agenda, we have here the outline, and you can feel free to go on the website, and we'll give you that at the very end, and click on the buttons. Agenda is changing daily as we get nearer to the event, which is on June 8th, but you can see really the structure is also innovative in itself. We really want to highlight not only some of the usual suspects that are doing fantastic work, but also bring in some new faces and voices that really merit the exposure and the attention. One thing that I will highlight is the Cousteaus, for example, are coming as a family, multi-generationally, to converse on oceans, something that is extraordinarily rare. Ambassador Thomson will be leading a Spotlight Solutions panel, and we thank you for that, Ambassador. But we also have the private sector coming in to discuss their roles, and we're highlighting some very innovative approaches that they're taking. Communities, because all of this is really about people and people with their feet in the water, as I say. Youth, of course, is a critically important, not only because they are victims, but they are also the solution. And we really want to give them a voice, and particularly in the innovation space. Next slide, please. Here are just a couple of highlights of some of the speakers. And of course, this changes fairly quickly over time. We'll be adding some, hopefully not subtracting some. I just draw your attention to this, not for anything else, but just the range. And you can see here, and this doesn't cover the complete range as of today, but from Cara Delevingne to Lily Platt and everything in between. If some of you have ever heard Lily Platt speak, you will get goosebumps and be registering for this event immediately. She is phenomenal, and she teaches us something every time we talk to her. Next slide, please. And much like all other online events, feel free to register here. You will receive additional information, updated agendas, etc. So it's important that you do register. Otherwise, you can join the events throughout the day, come in and out as you please, and it will all the instructions will be made clear on the website. I also highlight this website, which is not only for this event, but for all events that individuals and organizations are registering around the world for World Oceans Day. And you would be able to see if it was cropped a little bit above the top menu, that there is a bigger menu there. And I also would like to thank really warmly the Executive Secretary of IOC, Mr. Rybin, and his staff, because this is a website that exists only thanks to the IOC's enormous generosity and contribution to the movement. And we are really thankful for that relationship. And finally, Emily mentioned the community. Yes, we're now almost 200, actually just over 200 strong organizations worldwide working to promote oceans, Ocean Day, Ocean Week. And the Peace Boat is a treasured partner who has done a lot globally to spread the word of the need to implement the SDGs and SDG 14. So with that, I pass the floor to Emily and thank all of you, and look forward to seeing you on June 8th for World Oceans Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francois. And with that, I think we can go to the next slide, where we'll be introducing a little bit more about our week of events for the World Oceans Day. So as Francois mentioned, there are more than 200 organizations and partners helping to build out the United Nations World Oceans Day theme of innovation for a sustainable ocean. And I'm just highlighting a couple of events here that Peace Boat is taking a leadership role in, whether it be together with our partners at the Sustainable Ocean Alliance, where we are working on youth education, bringing in also Peace Boat's Ocean and Climate Youth Ambassador Program, which was endorsed by COP23 and brings young people from the small island developing states to also share their testimonies, as they're really on the front lines of climate change and ocean degradation. And we're also bringing in some speakers, as you can also see here, around innovative ocean habitats. For example, working with Hank Rogers from the Blue Planet Foundation and Fabian Cousteau and others to highlight the work both below water and above. Next slide, please. And we also have partnered with the SIAHEAD and Blue Tech Innovation Group to work on a series of webinars. And this is just one example where we'll be sharing Peace Boat's EcoShip. And as Ambassador Peter Thomson said, that it's more important now than ever to work towards a more sustainable blue economy. And with that, Peace Boat has really put the decarbonization of the maritime industry as our #1 priority, which is why we've developed the EcoShip as an example for climate action, reducing our CO2 by 40%, and showing an inspirational model for solutions for the ocean. So we are working with our partners also to show the positive side and the new technologies that we can use for innovative solutions. Next, please. And of course, the Ocean Acidification Alliance also has a side event during the World Oceans Week. Peace Boat is also a partner with the OA Alliance. And on June 11th at 12 p.m., we will be hosting a webinar in the same format. And the next slide will be showing some of the speakers. So you can see here, we'll be doing an event around advancing knowledge into action, innovative solutions to address impacts of ocean acidification. So we're really trying to highlight all of the work that our partners are doing during this incredible week of action and innovation for the oceans. Next, please. And so with that, you can join us with the Friends of UN World Oceans Day and see the entire program online at unworldoceansday.org. And we look forward to partnering with all of you in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and we look forward to more conversations.
Thank you so much, Emily and Francois. It's been awesome to partner with you guys, and just a tremendous amount of work you're undertaking to put together this program. So very much thank you, and invite everyone to go to the website and check it out, and feel free to email me, I guess, with any questions you might have for organizers, and maybe I can pass them along, or there will be contacts on the webpage if it's not so OA program specific. But one question I did see in the chat box was on time zone, and I think for UN World Oceans Day, all the schedules are EST. Is that correct, Emily?
Yes, that's correct. The program will be running from around 10 a.m. to about 5 p.m. in the afternoon with the Eastern time. So for those who are on different time zones, I hope you can tune in from wherever you are.
Great.
I could just jump in quickly, Francois, here. There are also other events happening at other times, and they're reflected on the website as well, including an event earlier in the European morning that will be organized by the IOC's Ocean Literacy Program. So please do tune into the website for around the world programming around June 8th and for the week.
Great. Thank you both. And just to follow up on the question regarding time zone, Elena, I'm just giving you a heads up that I'm going to call on you for something specific to confirm, but I believe that the virtual ocean dialogues will be occurring in CEST, which I believe is Central European Summertime. Is that accurate?
That's perfect. Yes, definitely.
Great. So yeah, so you can find the information on the World Economic Forum website as well. But those are the two different time zones to sort of track schedules in. And of course, some of these will be recorded for further viewing. Just sort of depends. So you can check that option out as well. Lovely. So just giving our audience a note that we will do some Q&A at the end if we have time in the questions box. So if you have any questions for speakers, go ahead and maybe start queuing those up now. And with that, it is my privilege to turn it over to Dr. Joanna Post with the UNFCCC Secretariat, and shifting tone, I think, ever so slightly to hear a little bit more about how last year's COP, which was hosted by the government of Chile, opened up this ocean and climate change dialogue, and hear a little bit more about what the goals and aims of that dialogue are. And sort of how some of these postponements are being taken up by the discussions that were being framed beginning at COP25. So Joanna, I'll go ahead and get your slides up. Can you hear me okay?
Hello, Jess. Yes, I can hear you very well. Thank you very much.
Lovely. All right, take it away.
Okay, firstly, I must apologize. I've seen everybody's slides so far have beautiful pictures of the ocean, and I'm afraid mine are words on a white background. But hopefully you can have a look at the information and absorb and think how we can really move forward with action on climate change and ocean, as Ambassador Thomson referred to at the beginning. And I think that's a very important part, this nexus really of ocean and climate change, and indeed biodiversity, and the importance of linking those thoughts and those action in all of those areas moving forward. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, if you could move forward, Jess, with the next slide, do a little bit of a quick background in that the UNFCCC Convention, which was put together in '92, has, as part of its ultimate objective, the importance of stabilizing greenhouse gases to prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system. And by climate system, it means the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the biosphere, geosphere, and all of their interactions. So definitely meaning the ocean. And part of the commitments in the original convention was to promote management and promote and cooperate in the conservation and enhancement of sinks and sources of and reservoirs of greenhouse gases, including oceans. So the oceans are a part of the convention. And the next slide, please. They are also part of the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement is the legally binding treaty under the UNFCCC in which parties have agreed to hold temperatures, global increase in temperatures well below 2, pursuing 1.5, to increase the ability for countries to adapt to adverse impacts and to make finance flows consistent with a pathway towards low greenhouse gas emissions and climate resilient development. And that is the main aim of the article of the Paris Agreement, but it's also extremely important to think that oceans comes in the preamble, whereby the Paris Agreement notes the importance of ensuring the integrity of all ecosystems, including the oceans. So the oceans is sort of must be thought of as in a cross-cutting way across all of the action on the Paris Agreement. Next slide, please, Jess. So I just wanted to show here that it is there under the work under climate change, but it's piecemeal at the moment. It's certainly considered under research and systematic observation, and actually the UNFCCC Secretariat worked very closely with the IOC in this regards. The IPCC is really regarded under the UNFCCC as the provider of assessment of scientific knowledge, and most recently, of course, the special report on the cryosphere and ocean and a changing climate was extremely important in that regard, and in building the momentum towards the ocean dialogue that I'll talk about in a moment. And of course, issues around oceans come up in a number of areas: technology transfer, loss and damage. There's a work on this partnership for global climate action, which has a specific focus on ocean and coastal zones. And there's also work going on under the Paris Agreement in bringing in the information around there. The needs for mitigation is obviously of a priority. We cannot hope to move forward without thinking about the urgent priority to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to protect the oceans. But also adaptation is very important, as is consideration of risks and loss and damage, such as through sea level rise and through extreme events and slow onset events. And then under the Paris Agreement, of course, there's a global stock take every 5 years. First one will be in 23 to look at progress and look at increasing ambition. So for this year of ambition of 2020, parties are providing their nationally determined contributions to say how they want to move forward to provide their responses to the Paris Agreement. And many of those responses should include action on ocean. Next slide, please, Jess. So following the provision really by the IPCC of their special report last year, there was, and the fact that Madrid, the COP25 was the blue COP, and there was a great work by Chile in that regards. There was a mandate coming out of Madrid which requested the chair of the subsidiary body for scientific and technological advice, which is a decision body under the UNFCCC that deals with science and technology, to convene at the 52nd session a dialogue on ocean and climate change to consider how to strengthen mitigation and adaptation action. And within that context, parties were non-parties, apologies, that should say parties and non-parties, were invited to submit inputs to inform the dialogue. And the substitute chair will provide a summary report from that dialogue moving forward. Next slide, please, Jess. So far we've had huge interest, which was expected really with the ocean dialogue. There have been 42 submissions, but that's probably not the last figure, because there is certainly a couple more coming from across the board, from parties, from UN agencies, from what we call admitted organizations, which are observers to the UNFCCC, and non-admitted entities as well. And the current way forward, what is in preparation right now, is in advance of the, and of course, what I should mention, of course, is that we are, Substa 52 was planned to happen at the beginning of June. The positive side of that is that we no longer clash with the Ocean Conference, which was also due to happen at that same time. What the plan now for the SB52 is to take place in October. So that's when the Ocean Dialogue is also planned to be held. And in advance of that session, in advance of that day of Ocean Dialogue, the Substitute Chair is preparing an information note. This will be a compilation of what I said previously, which is all of the work that is going on under the UNFCCC, what we know of in terms of work on adaptation and knowledge sharing on the global climate action work and so on. There will also be in that information note a summary of all of the links that UNFCCC has with other colleagues across the UN and UN organizations. Importantly, we will provide a summary of these analysis of these submissions, as well as, of course, a broad agenda. Then, like I said, the dialogue will take place in October, likely to be October the 8th. And then following that, the Substitute Chair will provide a summary report. Next slide, please, Jess. So what I tried to gather together here in this final slide is really some of the themes that are coming out from the submissions, looking forward a little bit. There is, of course, a huge range of work going on ocean, on dealing with the ocean and climate change impacts that we know are occurring. There's a lot of work going on in science, which Vladimir will talk about in a moment. But there's also a lot of action occurring around adaptation issues. There's also a lot of conversation about blue carbon, and the Ocean Alliance, of course. The Ocean Acidification Alliance is doing a huge amount of work as well. So all of these issues are coming up in the submissions, in looking at a sort of where we are, if you like. And then the submissions are also looking at where we want to get to, sort of what we want to think about in terms of this ocean and climate change nexus, links that across all of the work that's going on climate change under the UNFCCC, the increasing or optimizing synergies with other agencies and actually other agreements as well, multilateral agreements. Looking at what are the possible actions that could be taken to strengthen adaptation and mitigation by all. And also what's important is looking the submissions identifying action that could be taken moving forward under the UNFCCC. And so there's a concept here, of course, of the how to get there, which is also coming out in the submissions and will be discussed at the dialogue, looking at, you know, what are the options, what are the actual actions. Can we think about strengthening nationally determined contributions, encouraging parties to do so? What are the opportunities? I've written here MOI, that's means of implementation. What are the opportunities for finance, for technology, for capacity building? What are the possible policy options? And then, of course, specifically for FCCC process, parties and others are discussing what should happen long term, what should happen moving forwards at COP26 next year, and what should be happening long term. Is there a place, for example, for an annual ocean dialogue under the UNFCCC to look at how to continue to move forward? Or is there a place for strengthening across the board? For example, we have a number of constituted bodies that are working on different aspects of the convention, and is there opportunities to strengthen that ocean climate change nexus there? So a lot of things are coming up in the submissions, and it's quite exciting moving forward towards the dialogue to see what may be discussed and how we can move forward together. And with that, I thank you very much. I will share the web page for the dialogue in the chat, which I didn't put on this presentation, and I thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joanna. It's great to hear from you directly with the UNFCCC Secretariat, and thank you for everything you're doing to move this dialogue forward, and looking forward to more as we move towards the October 8th date, and staying in touch with you. So with that, I'll introduce our last speaker, and I'm very, very grateful for your time, Secretary Ravianen with IOC UNESCO. talking to us about the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And what I will say is I get your slides up here. For those of us that want to stay around maybe 5 minutes after the hour to ask questions, I hope speakers can do that and look forward to your participation. So, Secretary, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, Jesse. And so you can start the presentation, please, from the first slide. So, and thank you very much, International Ocean Alliance, for inviting the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO to speak to the audience. What I think it's important to introduce the IOC first. Just a few words. This is basically the home of ocean science in the United Nations system, and also which is very relevant for the International Alliance to Combat Ocean Acidification. IOC, we call it simply IOC of UNESCO, is the custodian agency of the United Nations that reports and is expected to develop techniques for standardized and also meaningful reporting of the pH of ocean water to United Nations, then enabling the ability of the world to deal with ocean acidification matters. So next slide, please, Jesse. And I would like to, I think, to say something that confirms what many people were already presenting, starting with Ambassador Thomson, also our other friends, and concluding with Joanna Post of the Framework Convention on Climate Change. So let us go back to the year 2016, and this was the time when the first World Ocean Assessment was published, and it was actually coordinated by Dualosa. So I thank Francois for working on that matter. So I think the most prominent statement there was that the world is running out of time to start managing the ocean sustainably. That was indeed a very loud statement that ocean is in crisis. And there are several dimensions of that crisis. And one of these dimensions is shown on this slide. This slide depicts carbon emissions by humankind for the last 25 years, 28 years. And you will see that without almost any difference, except for the crisis year 2008, the emissions of carbon are increasing, leading to ocean acidification, and also, as Ambassador Thomson said, leading to the world that is roughly 3 to 4 degrees higher than the pre-industrial world, which is basically a death sentence for coral reefs and many other issues. So the message here is that this was calculated also on the assumption that ocean will continue as the carbon sink. But now in the ocean science, it is a new consensus emerging that the carbon absorption is reducing. So we need to be very careful to the ability of the ocean to absorb carbon, and also to the consequences of that reducing carbon sink for what we do for mitigation of climate change. So this shows also the role of observations in science. Jesse, next slide, please. On this slide, you will see the main elements of the paradigm of how we can arrive at integrated ocean management. I would like to convey to you the understanding that in the current situation, the ocean can only survive if we manage its health. So we need to observe the ocean. We need to conduct research to understand the future of the ocean and also the processes in the ocean, particularly the composition and functioning of ocean ecosystems. With that, we will be able to predict the state of the ocean. And then this takes us to different ways of managing the ocean through establishment of marine protected areas that are efficient, that establishment of maritime special plan, coastal zone management, mitigating adaptation to climate change, management of fisheries. So, but this all has to be based on science. Next slide, please. I'm introducing now that little graph that was on the previous slide, but it is now blown up. And we will see a map of the world that actually depicts capacities of different countries and regions in the ocean science. And what you will see, or actually not see on the map, which is very striking, is the lack of Africa. Africa does not have the capacity to manage the ocean and to issue scientific publications. That means that, if we develop the science, start managing the ocean, there will be continents and countries that are left behind. We cannot afford this. So this is exactly why we need to have a global campaign that is developing the capacity of science, but leaving no one behind. Next slide, please, Jesse. So in 2017, the IUC of UNESCO, recognizing the situation in the ocean and the role of science in it, applied with a proposal to United Nations General Assembly to conduct a decade of ocean science for sustainable development. Every word matters here. Ocean science for sustainable development. And the United Nations General Assembly agreed to that proposal and proclaimed the decade starting on the 1st of January 2021 for 10 years for the end of 2030. So now we need to develop a plan, and IUC was requested to work with partners and develop a plan for the decade. Now we speak about the science we need for the ocean we want. And I would like also to state that this short sentence is also the vision of the decade, the science we need for the ocean we want. So 3 years we have worked with many partners, also with United Nations agencies, UNFCCC is involved, DOALOS is helping us, and many other agencies, partners, private sector, scientists, governments. Next slide, please. And now we are in the process of reviewing the implementation plan for the ocean decade. The first part of that review was successful in soliciting comments from 228 sources, and the plan has 3 parts. We present the rationale for the decade. We present also the framework for the decade. For those who know what is in the plan, we introduce the challenges for the decade. The data is the critical part. We need to open the data, make data interoperable, make it standard so the whole world can use the data. And then, of course, we need to implement, we need to coordinate the decade. This is basically the composition of the plan for the decade. And now we're opening this plan. It's already second iteration to the governmental review in the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, IOC, and also we will send it to United Nations agencies, the second part of the review. So next slide, please. Just to conclude, I think there are 3 more slides. I would like to say that, the ocean we need, we actually disaggregated this into different categories of the ocean. Some of these categories are characterizing the state of the ocean. We really would like to have the ocean that is clean, that is healthy, but all other categories are basically categories of the society that depends on the ocean and works with the ocean. We would like to keep the ocean healthy, but get benefit from it, contributing to ocean economy. We need to understand the ocean predicted future state. That calls for a predicted ocean. We also need to develop multi-hazard early warning systems. This calls for our ability to be safe in the ocean or on the coast of the ocean. And of course, the ocean needs to be accessible when it comes to data, when it comes to knowledge, and once again, leaving the ones behind. But this is a dry science. Dry science is actually not so convincing for ordinary people. We need to change the behavior of people. So because of that, we added recently to the list of societal outcomes of the decade, the 7th one, and inspiring, engaging the ocean. Through work in the ocean literacy, promoting the role of the ocean so that everyone knows that more than 50% of the oxygen is generated in the ocean, we will hopefully be able to change the understanding of society and how we can protect the ocean. Just a remark from me, now we know that because of the lockdown of the coronavirus, there will be probably less carbon emissions in the world. But what is happening now? Tons already of discarded gloves and masks are finding their way in the ocean, including detergent. So the same thing is happening, but in a different way. So we really need to change this paradigm. Because of that, we need to be inspired by the ocean. Next slide, please. And we need to get to this ocean. In order to get to the clean ocean, productive ocean, is not only that we need to really clean it, we need to work in different ways, developing the science capacity. So we formulated 10 decadal challenges to review pollutants, to understand how ecosystems work, how we can manage the ecosystems, how ocean can be further used for feeding the population and contributing to sustainable ocean economy. And of course, climate nexus is very crucial for us. I already spoke about the role of the warning systems. All this is based on the observing system and also on the data system that has to provide to the world a digital twin of the ocean, of its past, of its current state, and also for the future. And of course, for everyone to be on board, we need to have capacity development, transfer of marine technology, and once again, we have to undertake actions so we can ensure that there is a behavior change when it comes to the ocean. So last slide, please, Jesse. And so we are in the year 2020. So the plan is being reviewed now. You know, you can go to, you can Google and you find Ocean Science Decade immediately. And then we will promote the plan through the series of virtual dialogues. We also are creating an Ocean Decade Alliance, which will include partners from different parts of the private sector, from the governments, from the science community. So there will be major contributed to the decade, and there will be communication campaign, and please consider this as contribution to promotion of the decade, to remaining 54 people in this dialogue. And at the end of July or beginning of August, we will present the implementation plan to United Nations General Assembly, and then we hope very much that the General Assembly will resolve to move forward with the decade of ocean science for sustainable development. So thank you very much for your attention. This is the decade of ocean science for sustainable development.
Thank you so much, Secretary, for that overview and for lending us your time today. It's really invaluable and appreciated. And for everyone who staying a little bit after, but really appreciate your attention. For those that can hang on, or the speakers that can hang on, I do have a couple of questions here, I think. Let's see if I can stop share very quickly. And I'll also note that this event will have been recorded, and we'll put links to a lot of these opportunities or websites or events on our website along with the recording, so folks will be able to have access to that. And I see, let's see here. So one question that I have for you, Secretary, very quickly is, how do individuals, whether you're a researcher or an NGO or government, are there pathways for engagement for the UN Decade that we can see on the website? Have those inputs sort of already been taken up, or how will inputs be included throughout the process? Is there one obvious portal, or is it sort of various points of light where individuals can stay connected and actually contribute content to the decade?
Thank you, Jesse, and thank you to the person who asked that question. So, if you look at the logo of the decade, I believe, I need to move a little bit this dialogue menu, and you will see the logo on my last slide. So it was supposed to be a logo showing a wave that is, actually spinning the icons of the decade. But for me, this also looks like a snowball, and this is exactly the idea. We need to make the decade expanding like a snowball. So the idea is clear. We have to have a managed ocean. And for that, we need engagement of governments. But, this task breaks down to so many things that there is a task for nearly everyone, including general public. So there are different paths of investment, in engagement for different types of communities. And the implementation plan of the decade, we present different categories of stakeholders. So action can be done, of course, from scientists contributing to the common goals of the decade, uniting their forces and proposing projects. So very soon you should expect a call for action of the decade, and there will be several calls for action. I need to make a disclaimer here that the decade and the IUC are not the funding agency, but we're creating a framework for more investment into ocean science and to more engagement into ocean affairs. So everyone is different, and we expect engagement at the national level, at the local level. And when you use science that is best science, that is also using data that will be shared more openly in more standardized ways in the ocean for managing your part of the ocean, your coast, that will be a strong contribution to the causes of the decade. So multitude of ways, and please wait for the publication of the implementation plan. And this is basically an invitation to action. And of course, please contact IUC if you have specific proposals. But one important thing is that it's not really a decade that is for everything in the ocean. This is a decade that is focusing on ocean science for sustainable development. So there is a focus there. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. And I see one last question in the chat box, and I'll encourage short answers. And it might be for you, but I'm sure World Economic Forum and even Ambassador Thomson might have some opinions about this. But the question is, do the panelists have any opinions on whether the commercial instrumentation currently available are sufficient to support these goals and initiatives broadly?
I don't want to go ahead of my colleagues, but you know, I would be happy to be the second, unless I should be the first. All right. So
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. So you know, I can give you an example of mapping ocean depth. So far, when it comes to knowing ocean depths, we are I think below 10% in terms of the area for which we know the depths with the high resolution. This requires indeed development of new commercial tools for measuring ocean depths, as simple as that. And there are some other very many ways where ocean technology is needed. So yes, I think this is one of the ideas to develop an economic return on investment in ocean science and technology, but only into those areas that are sustainable, that are leading to healthy use of the ocean resources in space. But this is a huge area. I would like to state that at the moment, I think ocean economy global output is measured in the sum of the order of $2 trillion US. It is growing faster than the economy on land, and also what is important, it is going in the directions which are more kind of green or ecologically sound. So there is a huge potential there and huge demand.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for your time and participation today. It means a lot to the OA Alliance to have you all. And let's see, Ambassador Thomson, if you're still on the line, I'll give you our last word, if that's all right to you, and close us out to say goodbye.
I'm afraid this is again Vladimir. You know, Ambassador Thomson was supposed to leave to another meeting, so his time is precious. So he already is speaking as convincingly as today with us. Somewhere
That's
else.
love. Well, his time is appreciated and understood. Well, thank you all very much. I'll be in touch with recording available and get these save the dates for various events out. And wishing everyone a really great rest of the afternoon or rest of the evening, wherever this finds you. And